This is Michael Chambers. This is addressed to members of the Reddit forum Opus Dei Exposed. It's an update and an apology. Okay. So the update is I've sent a press release, which I published yesterday online, but it's been taken off, maybe for copyright reasons. I will publish again today. It's a press release to as many contacts in English football clubs, professional football clubs as possible, plus contact emails of political parties that I haven't contacted before about these issues. Basically, my allegations of child grooming at Opus Dei schools in England, especially through confession and spiritual direction and all sorts of related stuff. So I'd like to thank you for all the work that you put in that I'm piggybacking on, but I put my own work in as well, and other people too have pulled in a legendary shift, especially Gareth Gore. And by the way, Gareth agreed to meet me in person in London last year, gave me 2 copies of his free book, and I do know that he's put a lot of work into this and with little reward. Okay. So my personal request for Gareth is that if you get tons of requests or any requests from journalists for more information, is that you redirect them to that book first so that they can read it, buy it and read it and see how meticulously referenced it is before they start badgering you for your personal views and whatever. Okay. So on my press release, I have put something on about, when I've put this forum as a reference, your forum as a reference, I said, please be kept, please be sensitive. Lots of traumatized people here. So, so I don't know what will happen if you'll get journalists' queries or media inquiries or not. But if you do, then, you know, especially from England, from Britain, then direct them to public sources is my initial chat. And obviously, you've got lots of information online on your forum, and you're welcome to refer them to my forum, but that's a reference also on there, and all sorts of things. Anyway, especially opusdei.org, if you can if you can back up your allegations at opusdei.org, then that's fine. I have referenced the letter of of Don Alvaro about eternal damnation for people who leave, and also the instruction on proselytism of the founder, Escriva, from 1934. And I'm not afraid to share those documents or any other internal documents. I've got quite a lot of internal documents, and um, I honestly don't believe that there is any binding legal force anymore from the 2016 judgment of the Spanish Commercial Court on copyright matters for SEPTA. How does that apply to America in 2025? Reddit's the American forum. I mean, I suspect that Opus Dei have kind of gone on about that, to threaten people, but I'm not afraid. If they want to sue me, hey, because I'm not afraid, I'll just say, okay, well, let's see you in court, and then use that as an opportunity to open up all the stuff. And it's the same with the libel case. I've not heard it further with an injunction. Well, huge numbers of people have blocked me. Huge numbers of people. Manchester City's blocked. All their contacts have blocked me. I've seen Aston Villa has blocked me. There's a proper wall of silence going on, especially now I've linked rightfully Opus Dei, potential Opus Dei grooming in St Bede's College, Manchester, with Manchester City Academy boys, and that college has got a horrible history of child abuse. When it was a diocesan school going back decades. Okay, so this is potentially a way to blow the lid on this. Okay, and then there's a real issue here. There's child safety. The child safety of vulnerable adults. Who use confessions and private chats, which they then can't then deny or say it's confidential. To do their grooming, and there's no safeguarding there. So it's another point I would make is if you've got journalists hunting around for your cooperation, so ask them, and my suggestion, ask them, what's your track record on exposing or investigating uh, issues related to the protection of children and vulnerable adults? You want to get the right people, not just someone who wants a scoop for commercial reasons and doesn't really care about us. That we need to do our due diligence to protect ourselves from bad actors in the media who might just rake us for information and leave us in the dust, and not really care. And one person that comes to mind is Dan Brown. Dan Brown, you might think, well, he did a good turn for us. No, he didn't, because he basically, I don't know what sort of research he did, but he absolutely misrepresented Opus Dei on almost every issue. And thereafter, the so press people, they milked that for all it's worth, saying, "Look at this ridiculous portrayal of Opus Dei. It's all wrong, and it almost always wrong." But how much research did Dan Brown do, into his stuff before overlooking all the real issues? Okay, and then how much work did he do after he published that to help us lot in our trauma and avoid possible further trauma? Okay, so he had huge influence to do that. I recently sent him a chapter of my book. In the end, the flesh is stronger. Kind of like an erotic thriller, illustrating the as a tale of love between a Cockney waitress stroke escort and a Spanish numerary who arrives in Canterbury to set up a new centre under the guidance of a dastardly director from Opus Dei in London. It was based on real lives, but all the characters are completely fictional. Okay. Anyway, but you get the idea. He doesn't. I don't think lots of people can go into Opus Dei stuff, just rake it for commercial value, and not care about us. And that's why we're still fighting. And I want to say clearly that I took 20 years to get my act together to do what I've done now, and I had lots of legal skills 20 years ago to do what I've done now, and it was fair enough for me to have some time of healing. But I don't know if 20 years was too late, and I'm willing to stand up and say, look, that's a long time to speak out on issues of abuse and grooming, and I apologise for that, and for to all the people who have been affected in the meantime, okay, including people in the forum. Because if I'd put my skills to good use beforehand, then that could have saved a lot of people some trauma. So if anybody has some issues with me on that, I apologise. And um, yeah, anyway, I do mean that. And the other thing is that I know that I've been a difficult character on the forum, so I've gone through lots of massive process of development through this Opus Dei exposure stuff. And at one point, I had a really big breakthrough where I forgave. And again, after 20 years after leaving, I forgave, and I was like, "Oh, I've forgiven. I'm so happy. I'm so happy." And I was very insensitive to people who haven't reached that point in their process, people who have much bigger trauma than me. So I'd like to apologise for that, and just to say that I respect everybody's journey. It's all unique, and it's a matter between for individuals as and when they as to how they deal with their trauma, and when, and if it involves forgiveness or not. And it's not my place to go around crowing that to the winds. So I apologize for that, and for any kind of like aggressive language or kind of over confrontational language. Again, I've really worked through that, but at the beginning I've expressed that. So I also think maybe there's kind of transatlantic rivalry issues at stake, and that we Brits, English people, we really like to get under the skin of Americans sometimes and be a bit condescending. And that's again, that's an issue that that I have to work on myself. And and we're all none of us are perfect. We all have our national pride. We all have our issues. So I don't know if there's anything else that I've done wrong that people want to say, then feel free. And I do know that I suspect very strongly that I've been banned from the forum because of pressure from certain individuals that don't want things to be publicized. If you have a look around the posts at the time that I got banned, from me, there's some interesting stuff that I raised as speculatively that I can't prove. You might want to have a look at that. So we all know what it's like to deal with Opus Dei and their official authorities, and we all heard stories about pressure on media sources to hush things up, and also incredible efforts to go around and block everybody. So anyway, but I just want to finish by you might remember my handle was a strange one, Al D Schritter, okay, Al D Schritter. So I just want to finish with a little song so that you can understand that reference, where that came from. Okay, it's a German song. All right, so I'll just sing one verse to you. Lippen schweigens, flüstern Geigen, hab mich lieb. All die Schritte sagen, bitte hab mich lieb. Jeden Druck der Hände deutlich mir's beschrieb. Er sagt, was ist wahr, du hast mich lieb. Jeden Druck der Hände deutlich mir's beschrieb. Er sagt, was ist wahr, du hast mich lieb. I think it's ich hab mich lieb. Hab mich lieb. Sorry, I might have got a few words wrong, but it's basically lip and so lips fall silent, violins whisper, I love you. All the steps, all die Schritte. Say please, I love you. Every clasp or squeeze of the hand um, clearly describes to me. It says clearly, it's true. I love you, and so I hope that maybe you can accept that I love you all, and maybe we can thank God that He found a way through. He's finding a way through to make use of all our talents and yet keep apart, people like me from people like you maybe, and all the ways in which we maybe trigger each other. Maybe one day, when I've dealt with things in England, then we can work together again. And I say I dealt with, with working with everybody else as well. I just want to see things taken care of by professionals. I'm not one. I'm just a whistleblower. I'm trying to getting action going, and I hope one day I can maybe support anybody else in other countries if they feel they want that support. So, but I have to focus on England first, my country, and getting kids and vulnerable adults safe here. Thank you so much for listening.